Hey everyone, this is Sam from Warhammer Online, and today I'm going to show you a very quick and easy and effective way of making a permafrost base, which you can use on individual miniatures or across a whole army. And I've used a new product that I've never seen before, so I thought it'd be worth showing you. But basically permafrost is where ice has formed and it's been left for at least 2 years. That is the actual definition of permafrost, which I had to look up, I'm not going to lie. So it's basically permanent frost. It doesn't melt and turn into water. It literally just stays frosty, and that's what the effect that's the effect I was going for, because I'm doing a Frostgrave warband, and the city that it's supposed to be based around is supposed to be under layers and layers of ice and snow for hundreds of years, I think. So that's what we're going with. And this product definitely helped me create that. So the full tutorial of this model is on the website, so that's wargameronline.com, and you need a premium subscription membership to actually access it. But it shows you how I painted the skeleton warrior and how I'm going to be painting the warband itself. But today the video for the actual base is going to be right here, so you can check that out. Hopefully it helps you. If it does, please leave a comment down below and give us a thumbs up on the video, because that always helps promote. So thanks for that, and hope you like the video. So to start with, we're using Amarth Blue from scale 75, and we're applying this over the top of all of the sand and gravel. So the base has just been made initially by putting PVA glue onto the base and sprinkling some sand and some gravel on there and letting it fully dry. And then obviously when I primed it, I used the black primer first and then a very light coating of white. And that just means that when I put this blue over the top, it's going to be quite bright. It's not a dark blue now, and when we start highlighting it will look perfect. But the main thing here is you need to thin down your paint a little bit more than normal, just so it flows in between all of the grains of sand and the slate. You don't want to have some, black bits where the paint hasn't gone into. And this also helps seal the sand onto the base, because we're going to use a product later on. If you don't use that product, you might want to do something different, but I'll show you what I mean. Once this is fully dry, we're going to wash the entire base using Drakenhof Nightshade, and this is straight out of the pot. You could thin it with medium if you want to, but again, just for speed, just grab it straight out of the pot and just trickle it all over the base. You can see it's flowing into all of those gaps in between the sand. Just don't get it onto the feet of the skeleton, and this is why I'd normally pin my models so that I can paint the bases separately. Because I've only got 10 of these to do, it's not that big of an issue, so I'm just being careful with the 10 models that I've got to do, or 13 models, however many it is in my warband. Let that fully dry as well, and then we're going to start dry brushing the highlights onto the base. The first one we're going to use is Hyrule Blue, I think that's how it's pronounced, and that's from scale 75 again as well. I'm just trying out these paints. I haven't seriously done a full model with them yet because I'm dabbling a little bit. I normally stick to Games Workshop, but the scale 75 range has got some really nice colours that I want to try out. But we're just dry brushing this over the top. Very, there's no skill to this as well. You just get some paint on your brush, you wipe off the majority of it, and then you drag your brush across the top of this sand and gravel, and it picks up the paint and it gives it definition. It's quite straightforward. The final step that we're going to do for highlighting the base is exactly the same way. We're going to use White Scar, and this is for the final dry brush. One thing I will say, I'll start talking about it now actually, is the base product. So once you've painted this, once you've done all of the blues and you've done the dry brushing, you can do various different things. So I found a new product called Distress Crackle Paint, which I'm going to apply. And if you cannot find this, because I think it may be available in America a little bit easier, in the UK I had to pick this up off eBay. I think it was £4 for a small little 33mm pot of it. So it was a little bit more expensive than you normally pay for a pot of paint, and I don't even know what this is designed to be used for. It's probably nails or something like that, but you could use a gloss varnish instead. So you could use Ardcoat from Games Workshop or something else that's glossy and apply this directly over the top of this painted sand, and it would look like a icy frosty base as well. So it's just down to you what you'd prefer to use, whether you want to buy this Distress Crackle paint or whether you want to use some sort of resin or a water effect paint or an Ardcoat or a gloss, anything like that would work over the top of this blue. So go with what's available and see what you think works. Now I'm just tidying up the rim of the base before we put that product onto it. So I'm just using a Bad and Black. I paint all of the base rims that I do with black, just because I think it's almost like a trophy stand. It makes the model frames the model. Let's leave it at that. You want to frame your model and the base that it's on, so black works really, really well for that. And let it completely dry before we start applying this stuff. Now, another thing that I found when I was testing this crackle paint is you need to put it on quite thick. It's very similar to the Games Workshop crackle paints that they use, where if you put it on thin, it won't crack and you won't see the effect. You need to put it on quite thick. The other thing I found is it is extremely brittle. Like once you've applied it and it's dried, if you touch it, it just crumbles. So one thing I did as well is add PVA glue over the top of it afterwards, just to seal it onto the model. The effect doesn't look as nice as if you don't put the PVA glue on it, but if you're going to be gaming with it, you have to seal it. You have to make sure that it's protected in some way, otherwise it will just crumble off your model and there's no point in having it. So you can see I'm putting this on quite thick. You need to give the bottle a good shake as well, because I shook it for the first 2 or 3 test bases that I did, worked fine. The next 2 bases I didn't shake it, even though I'd used it like an hour before. I didn't shake it and I put it on and there was no cracks whatsoever. So give it a good shake before you actually put this on, otherwise it will have no effect. You can see now it's dried, it almost looks like glass. So because we've done sand underneath it, it's got some texture under there already. We've got loads of different shading and it looks like a permafrost over the top of it. It's completely frozen, which I really like. And just to add to that effect, we're going to use white scar here and dry brushing it over the top very carefully, and it's going to go over some of these cracks and just further enhance that icy look. Just be careful you don't get it onto the rest of the model, but look at that. The product's great. It's ruined slightly by putting PVA glue over the top of it to seal it. However, I think it needs that anyway. And once that's been done and once the PVA glue's dried and you've varnished it or whatever, you can go over it with a gloss paint. So I'm going to use Hard Coat just to gloss it back up and give it the shininess that I wanted it to have. But you can see here I'm just applying the PVA glue. I'm going to let this fully dry and then I'll add the gloss afterwards, and that should mean that it's a hard wearing, tough base. There's so much going on the base, even though you've seen it's not difficult to actually do, and this will definitely look like it's in a frozen city or in a tundra. You could add some snow effects to it as well, so if you wanted to put some clumps of snow or some scattering from woodland scenics or whatever you want, you can add that to the top of this to mix up the base even more. So that's the tutorial done. It's my way of doing it, so there's probably loads of better versions. If you know a way of making frost or ice bases or even snow, just please leave that down below in the comments for other people to read and find if there's any other tips and tricks you can do for making their own. But thank you very much for watching this until the end, and if you have, please give us a like, because it does help share the videos and we do appreciate that. And other than that, I will see you on the next video. Thank you for watching.